Hello, welcome to my hobby machine shop. I'd like to share a tip on how I was able to cut these here rabbets in a piece of aluminum bar stock, and by cutting these rabbets I was able to save the metal and have some extra pieces here that I cut off. And it was all done using a portable benchtop bandsaw that's connected to its base. And using that bandsaw, I like to share the techniques that I use to make those cuts. Stay tuned. Okay, I'm going to jump in here with a little explanation of what I'm trying to do here. I don't like wasting metal of just milling off a bunch of, hogging out a bunch of metal. If I can cut some pieces out, it's a lot better than to just be hogging out metal. So, what I'm going to do here is I am going to put this in my vise here on my saw, and I'm going to try to cut this here part out to the point where I can then just machine it down on a final couple passes on my mill to get to the final dimension. Now, the way I'm going to do this is I have my lines struck here, as we've seen before, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt this now as I bring my blade down to that line where I'm going to be stopping at. My line is right here that I'm stopping at. I'm going to tilt the workpiece now. And I'm going to continue to tilt this on an angle in my vise until I'm getting an even line across there, about like that. Now I'm going to tighten down the vise with that workpiece in that position there. Now I should point out that I don't want to take my saw all the way down to that line, because that line is the finished dimension. So I'm going to raise my saw up about maybe a 1/16 of an inch or more, almost an 1/8 of an inch, and still keep that block lined up and then tighten it in there. The next thing would be to put a 1, 2, 3 block here, a gauge block here as a stop. So when I come down and I make that stop there, I'm right where I want to be on my line here. And so now I got that lined up, and now the last thing to do would be to move the whole vise in so I can line up with this line here now for the depth of cut. That gives me about an 1/8 of an inch past the where I need to be. Now, as you can see, as I tighten this vise here up on the saw, it kicks the whole vise up, and that's why I did that ahead of time. I tightened this up before I adjusted that block so that it compensated for that. So now I'm away from this line about 1/16 of an 1/8 of an inch, and I'm doing good now in this part here with a stop. So let's go ahead and cut this now. Okay, for the sake of the saw being very loud here, as I put the camera next to it, I'm not going to show the whole sequence of cutting it, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of an idea of what's going on here. I'm going to start it up now. Okay, this will allow me to check and see how if there's any adjustment that needs to be made here. Or did it cut straight across there pretty good? That's not bad. That's not bad at all. So I think there's no need for adjustment. Okay, so that's cut on that edge. Let me check here. I folded this here so I can put the line right on the edge here, and we can see the depth of cut. I'm very close, right about there. So I left about 1/16 of an inch or so to do the final machining. Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and finish the other side, then turn this around, and then I'll show how I get this here cut in the next direction. That's coming up next. Okay, now here's this setup. I have to cut along this line here now. So I have to use a combination of vices. I can't put this in this vise here and put it in this direction here like I did before, because I don't have enough to catch as I did before. So I have to come up with something here that the combination of vices, where I can have this smaller vise clamp it this way here, because it does need to be clamped this direction. that's the way it clamps in these vices, like this. So that gives me a good solid clamping that way. And then I can take this and put this back in the other vise here now, back in here, and then I can put that back on my saw and then tune that in again to give me the angle I need to cut this line in this direction here now. Okay, over to the saw we go. Back at the saw here now, I have the vise in here. And what I'm looking to do is to turn this small vise now this way here, so that I try and hold this now with the camera on hand here. Alright, there we go. And turn the vise in that direction there like that. And I have my cut line here now. My cut line will now become my reference line to line up with the saw blade, like that. And then again we'll put the stop over here and we will get this thing set. I'll put my stop here first. That way that one's set. So I come down like that and that's set. Now I can go ahead and set the actual workpiece here, and I can see that's not going to be low enough. So I have to readjust this. I got to readjust the stop here. Maybe put it in this direction here and come down so far. And just keep on working back and forth here. And once I get where I want my stop at, I'll put a little double stick tape on there and keep that from moving when I get this thing set up. So once I get this set up, I'll bring you back. I have the stop double stick tape there. That's nice and solid. That's not going anywhere. I have everything here adjusted nice and tight. So when the blade comes down, there's my line. And we'll come right down across that there cut line there. And all I have to do now is bring it forward now to meet this line right here, and to come in front of this line a little bit. So now we're all set up here now. There's the line right there. I'm going to come in front of it a little bit here, and we're ready to go. Plus, I now have this piece of metal here that I can use for something else now. It's not a waste of metal. The thing about this, everything is set at the required angle, so all I gotta do is flip the workpiece around this direction, and I am already set now for the angle. Now the rest of this right here and here, I could either cut that, but I'm going to go ahead and mill that. That's just a little bit there to mill off. But I did save all this metal here, and that's what counts. Now I got two nice pieces here that I can use for anything else, other kind of projects. Okay, I think that's a good tip to show on using a benchtop bandsaw to make a couple rabbets in a piece of metal about 3 inches long, and it goes in about maybe a ½ inch or so, and it's about 1 inch deep or so, 3/4 inch deep, maybe 1 inch deep, and that's what I'm going to show for right now, and we'll continue on with the project.